And this is it. We are talking about identity, an identity crisis in a way, in a manner of speaking. And so, what do I mean by identity? What I mean is the self, the version of yourself that you believe you are. Like, who are you behind everything? So behind the facade, behind the clothes, and like behind the name, like let's go all the way back to before you were even born, let's say. So your parents, you've been uh, the egg has been fertilized by the sperm. The baby is known about. You're gonna be born eventually, and right then and there is when it all starts. So you've got your parents, and they're caught up in anxieties. Is it going to be a boy? Is it going to be a girl? I hope it's healthy. What are we going to do for money? We're going to need a bigger place. There's all these things going on, and all these energies are around and influencing everything, going through the mother's body, right into the belly, right into you. You're being affected by this. You haven't even come out yet. You're not even really here yet. You're still developing, and all of these energies and influences around you, all of this hopes and dreams, the stresses, all of this stuff is coming into you. But so that's developmental for you. And on top of that, we've got like your parents. You've got these other people who already have a life, and they already have kind of an idea of how everything is going to flow along in their little timeline, and they're trying to come up with a way to fit you in, like a little block, to fit you into the whole scenario, into the storyline, into the timeline. And so, like, little things like even like coming up with a name. So they're looking through baby books of acceptable names for society, and what do these names mean? And if I named you Bob, what does Bob mean? And what does John mean? And what do all these different names mean? What meaning do they hold? What power do they hold within them that is also going to develop the person that you're to become later on? And so, like, even like myself, I'm a Jason, and my brother's an Aaron, and there's a story in the Bible of a Jason and an Aaron, and it fits all together. It's this Christian land that I was born into in the Bible Belt of Canada, down on the East Coast, and it all like ties together in this weird way of trying to create a person. So there's the you, there's the real you, the soul, the spirit that's come down into that belly and is growing, and there's the pure essence of you-ness in there. And then on top of that, you've got outside factors, outside influences who are definitely trying to influence in some way, have a control over the you that you're going to become. So they've already picked out a name for you. So like, I remember I had a dog once, and my dog had puppies. She had like 13, 14 puppies. And I was going to keep one of the puppies. And I picked out, as they all, all the little puppies would live together in this little pen and everything. And over the weeks that you're not allowed to sell or give them away until they're a certain developed age. And so during that time, I was able to like see the puppy that I wanted. And during that time, I was able to see a personality start to develop and a character start to develop. And so I got to pick the puppy that I wanted and then apply an appropriate name to the puppy. I didn't just name it some random thing and then hope that it fit into that character of the name that I gave it. No, like I named it based on the things that I was seeing, its mannerisms, the way that it acted. And maybe I was superimposing a little bit, like our human stuff onto this like puppy, but I did the best that I could in not naming the dog until it was like actually time, until a name had developed on its own. And so in the same way, you've already been like pre-chosen. Like your parents have been working on this thing for months, and oh, should it be? If it's a girl, I'm gonna name it Sally, and if it's a boy, I'm gonna name it Jason or John and Carl and Regan and all these other names, and there's boy names and girl names, and it gets into this whole gender thing, and it's like the soul you is genderless. The soul you comes in and is housed within this structure, this 3D structure that we're in order to be able to maneuver through this 3D realm that we're in. And so you've got identity in the sense of your name being imposed by the people before you. And I mean, it's not your parents' fault. Your parents grew up in this world where their parents named them, and 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 they're all just following this game that was already set up here on the earth before any of these souls had ever come into these bodies, and they're all just falling in line, falling in line. I mean, no one usually takes the time to like step out and kind of like look around and go like, well, wait a minute, like what's going on here? I feel like, what's going on? Is this a conspiracy? Is this have been set up? Are these rules been set up by some secret cabal? Has all of this been written by men behind closed doors? And really, we're not here to argue that or debate that. The only way to ever figure that out would be to have some kind of like impartial time machine where you could go back in time and just kind of be a fly on the wall in these places and really see what really went down. You're never going to read about it in a book about why everything is the way that it is right now. So it's kind of pointless in even like talking about that kind of stuff. So what I would really like is to just kind of continue talking about the identity. And so we all come from source, we all come from the one. That much is truth, that much is fact, that much is common knowledge amongst all spiritual people. And then the thing that has happened is that we've been fooled, we've been duped into believing, so you are now born, and then there's your parents going, oh look, it's a little Jason, no, and they pinch your cheeks, and they start telling you over time and over months and over years, and that you're a Jason, that you're this Jason character, you're this Jason, that's your name, it's your identity, it's who you are. And after a while you start to believe it. So before you came in as this soul of oneness and pure, true, just one solidarity, and then it's been shattered, it's been fractaled, it's been splintered out all over the earth through all these different incarnations into these bodies that we're in. And you're believing it. You're like, oh, I am this Jason thing, and I like to wear bandanas on my head, and I like scarves and bead necklaces, and these are the things, and I'm this and I'm that, and this is my identity. And we start to get attached to all these little things. There's so many distractions in this world that have been laid out ahead of time before we even got here. So yeah, I've been walking around like, oh, I'm a yoga teacher, and I'm a yoga teacher. And I did a little video about this like a couple months ago, but I'm trying to elaborate a little more here today on I am and the power of I am. So I am a human, like for sure, I am a human, but I am a human who teaches yoga. I am a human who meditates. I don't want to say I am a meditator. I am a human who meditates. It's verbs and nouns here that we're getting into. But beyond any of that too, I mean, that's just one little part. That's more like a self-identification aspect, which everyone does it. It's embedded in our society again. It's all wrapped up in this whole thing. So here you are, you've been born, you've come out, you're a Jason or a June or a Claire or whatever. You've entered out onto the world stage, and then it's almost as if that wasn't enough, because still, we could all go off and live in these little communes, little Smurf villages where everybody's equal, we all wear the same pants, the baker doesn't make any more than the candlestick maker, who doesn't make any more. In fact, there's probably no money. Everybody just makes stuff and does stuff and shares and gets along great with the unlimited resources that we have on the earth. And on the communal level, in a community, commune, small, tight-knit where you know everybody. On that kind of a level, it works great. In the big city levels and on these state levels and province levels, it doesn't work so good. It gets a little too hard to manage, too big. And so, coming back, we've got power structures in place that want to manage all of these individuals. So it's a divide and conquer. You know, if the one solitary, let's call it like omega soul, were to come into all of us and we were just born and we all just knew that we were all multiple moving parts of the same microorganism, or a macroorganism in our case, spread out all over the earth, if we all knew that we were all working towards one thing, we would be harder to control this one giant mass of us. Whereas now we are born into this game, this system that was set up way before we got here, many, many years ago. Grandparents, grandparents' grandparents' grandparents, back to the Dark Ages, all been set up to make us each believe that we are an individual, we're unique, we each have different tastes, we each like different music, we each like different flavors, we each like different clothing, we each like to see different things, we each like to watch different shows. Everything is being tailored to the individual right now. Whereas if by chance we were to all group and unite communally, we would be able, as a mass force, to be able to stop being put under these controls. And we're not going to get into what the controls are about. Is it about who we vote for to be in power, who gets to maintain the money, who purchasing power to control us to maybe buy stuff here and there? Like, none of that is even none of that even matters, because the point is that control is happening, and then we are being controlled based on our individuality. And then, almost as if that wasn't enough, that we were splintered this way in steps, because a lot of us could all band together and still be able to unite and be able to stand up against these forces. And so it wasn't enough. And that's when things like the ego and the id started to come onto the world stage. And maybe it's just nature that we started talking about this, or maybe it was purposefully put there by the powers that be, and then the big evil Illuminati conspiracy Templars, or whatever name you want to put onto any of this kind of stuff. We're not here to debate that. The point is that it's there, it exists, but it doesn't really exist. The ego is a trap that's been laid out for all of us, and I find a lot of spiritually advanced people are still getting caught in these ego traps. So they're thinking that, like, oh, well, my ego, I was being so egotistical yesterday when I said this and that, and oh, I was acting out of ego, or he was acting out of ego, and she was being egotistical. We are one whole and complete unit. We are not splintered in half. There's no ego J and JJ, and like all of the writings of the past and the psychology books and everything will tell you that, oh, but the ego's there to protect you. The ego's what helps you fight bad guys. The ego's what makes you run from that tiger when you're out in the woods and there's an animal chasing you. It's like, no, what we know now is that's cortisol levels. That's blood sugar, insulin spikes that's making us run from that tiger or stay and fight with that tiger or that bear or whatever the case is, fighting with an outside tribe or anything like that. So to say that it's the ego is like totally false. And by believing in the fact that we have an ego, that we are splintered and split in half, we individually, in solidarity, have been fractured internally and are again being easier to manipulate. So we have us on our little human level. Let's say there's 4 humans, and then we all learn how to get along, and then we can make a fist and punch. But it's like, well, if this finger thinks it's 2 fingers, and if this finger thinks it's 2 fingers, and if each of these fingers think that they're 2 fingers, these fingers are never going to be able to get along with the thumb enough to make a fist, to punch and fight back. It's kind of where we're at right now in society in this day and age, is that we have so many people who are on the right path but are continually buying into this idea that there is and ego. By buying into the ego idea that you are divided, you are then conquered right away. So you've got to get that out of your mind. There's nothing that anyone can say to you. There's no podcast video I can make to tell you about this. Like, I'm saying it now, but it's probably not going to click in. It's not going to resonate. Something is going to happen in your life where you're just going to snap and be like, oh my God, now I get it. I understand. I am already a whole. There's not another Jay in here running around in the background. There's not like an evil Jay, like the little devil on my shoulder and an angel on my shoulder. No, like, you are one. Take responsibility. You have to take responsibility. So by saying, oh, my ego self was saying all this nasty shit to someone yesterday at the checkout, I was so egotistically rude to them. It's like, no, you were being rude. I was being rude. And I now take responsibility when I find myself acting out in these ways, and I start to like label it like, oh, ego doing that. No. I was doing that, and I am totally sorry to all the people who I've said rude things to in the past. And I like to now go back and apologize when these kind of events happen, or when you catch yourself doing something formerly known as egotistical, to not even just like label it as such, to just kind of recognize it as like, oh, I was being a dick. I should probably go apologize for being a dick. Not my ego self was being a dick. I was being a dick. I was being an asshole. I need to go back and apologize. Or I need to set things right. I need to go back and change the motion and the direction that things are headed because of the things that I did. By taking full responsibility of you yourself as one unit, we can then bond and bind together with other individual solidarity units and form that fist so that the control can no longer happen. That's it, ladies and gentlemen, for today. Peace, love, and light. Namaste. And all that other good noise. And we out. Peace.